on this computer. And we are recording. So here we are. It is, what is it? July the 6th. And we're back to aligning with success. I know that the last couple of weeks has been pretty intense in terms of content. I mean, even though it was meditative, we did some meditation and learned how to apply that meditation for setting an intention. We even collectively set an intention for the upcoming event this month on the 18th, the Zoom-in event. I think I called it a live-in, but I mean a Zoom-in. 12:30 on Saturday the 18th. That's 12:30 Toronto time. It's 9:30 Pacific time. That'll run about an hour, hour and 15 minutes. We've got a great lineup again. Great stories. And just if you recall, just let me take you back for a second. We did talk about setting an intention personally and then an intention collectively for making this event an extraordinary event, because it is one of our showcase events in North America. And we've also included the our colleagues from Europe who are primarily English speaking. I wanted to take this call, instead of it being more download, bit more of an interactive, to see how some of this content is seeping into or steeping into you and seeping into your activities. I've even invited Sophia last minute. She'll probably join us in a second or two to take some questions, if you have any questions for her, since she was the central figure in the dialogue over the last couple of weeks. But I think what's most important about it is that we understand we have a process, and it's a process that you may be unfamiliar with, only because we're used to operating in the third dimension. And in the third dimension of matter, it's matter trying to move matter. It's trying to be willful and exert effort and force to make things happen. And while that does cause an effect, it's a very, it's not leveraging the science and the technology of spirituality and the nature of reality, to be quite frank. So I'll give you a metaphor for that. If we were dealing with explosions, creating an explosion of some kind, if we use Newtonian physics, we're familiar with dynamite. Dynamite is a chemical reaction that has a capacity to explode. And so we measure dynamite or TNT as a figurative speech of explosive power, explosive potency. But when we slide over to quantum physics and we use the more advanced physics, then we're not talking about a chemical reaction, we're talking about a nuclear reaction. Even though we're dealing with matter, it's dealing with matter in a different capacity, a better understanding of how to apply the laws of energy. And when you explode even a very small amount of uranium through a nuclear or atomic blast, we measure the capacity of that blast in terms of tons of dynamite, tons of TNT. So a much smaller mass of matter with understanding of quantum physics can result in an explosive power mega times larger, millions of times larger than the chemical version of that in terms of mass using Newtonian physics. And so when we're talking about using our mind-heart connection, getting an alignment of that, what we're doing is we're stepping out of the Newtonian world of trying to move things along, push things along with sheer force and sheer will. We're applying now, we're leveraging now a higher intelligence, a higher form of science, if you will, where we're leveraging the field, we're leveraging the quantum field, we're leveraging the source of matter. And so it has a higher potency. Even a little bit of intention in that realm goes much, much further than a whole bunch of force and will in the third dimensional realm. So what we're talking about is the creating in the fifth dimension, making it possible for you to manifest your physical experience, but by creating and using the technology of the fifth dimension, which is less effort, which requires less exertion, less force. It's an application of will in a different way. Thanks for joining us, Sophia. See you're out on the patio. And
this was last minute.
It was a last minute
me,
thing.
hey, come on if you're free. So here I am. Hello, everyone.
Hi, Sophia.
So again, as I said, I don't want this to be a lecture. I would rather this be a bit of an interaction and see where your personal experience of this, whatever it is, what have you learned from this, gleaned from this, that was an aha for you? What are you doing different? Because, your personality creates your personal reality. And so how many of you have changed or adopted a new personality? And by the way, and if you haven't, why not? You see, the difficulty is if we don't make the decision, if we don't commit ourselves to it. And I'm going to come to you, Mary, because I know Mary has. How do I know Mary has? Because at midnight or 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, sometimes 3 o'clock in the morning, I get a text message from Mary that confirms she did the work that she needed to do to assure her and myself that she's on track to applying the application of this science. And I know it's going a long way for you, Mary. I mean, look at her face. She's just she's alive. She's buzzing. So that shows up in every part of our life, not just our face. Am I right, Mary?
Absolutely. It's the royal diamond face, I want you to know.
Wonderful. It's okay. So maybe you want to share with, I don't know. I'm asking if you wanted to share your objectives, your goals, anything that you shared with me, with the group here.
Okay. Yeah. Most of you know that I did a couple of courses now live stream with Bob Proctor, and I made a decision that I was going to do the work. Yeah. And my aha with Bob Proctor came after 40 years of trying to change myself. And once I heard that I'm a spiritual being and that, I'm perfect and that, I could, spirit doesn't need modification or adjustment or anything like that. And so I made the decision to do the work, and I have been doing it since May the 3rd. So, and I was very bold to ask Michael to be my accountability partner, and he said wonderfully yes. So I'm so delighted. And yes, I feel differently. I act differently. I believe my belief in myself is so different. So my goal that I set on July 1st was to be a royal in 19 days.
I'm sorry, we missed that. You dropped out for a second.
Oh, my goal on July 1st was to be a royal diamond, qualified royal diamond, in 919 days. That is January the 6th, 2023, on my birthday.
Okay. Well then, what I'd like everybody to do on behalf of Mary, and if you remember something that Sophia talked about, is that when we meditate for or set an intention for someone else, we actually become a channel. We actually become a conduit, and there's like a boomerang effect. We receive the benefit of that. So what I want you to hold in your consciousness and intention concerning Mary henceforth is, do not recognize Mary as anything but a royal diamond that she is. Mm-hmm. Her business will manifest according to the laws. Mm-hmm. And that's not an issue. We know and understand that that's a lawful process. But the vision she has for the future, that she is living in the present, the vision she is defining herself by, her actions by, her attitude by, is royal diamond. So hold that for her. That's how we help each other. And where two or more are gathered, we become exponentially more powerful in our ability to manifest. So that's what I'd like you to do for Mary. And that's what I've been doing. And that's what I'd like you to also contribute to. Every time you see her delightful face on our Zooms, just recognize the royal diamond in front of you that she has created for herself and others, which will of course benefit. So thanks, Mary. And if you want to jump in as well on some of your ahas about this. By the way, it was Bob Proctor's birthday yesterday. Had a nice little chat with him to wish him a happy birthday. And he's super enthusiastic about you, Sophia. So, by the way, any insights for you, Sophia, since the call a week ago? I mean, if you're looking at her pages, they're chock full of stuff all the time. So anything come up for you?
Well, I had a pretty big accomplishment.
Oh, share that, won't you?
That I met this week. So on May 25th, this year, I made the decision that by July 1st, 2020, I was going to have 1,000 followers on my Instagram page. At the time, I had about 400 followers, which I had accumulated over 8 months. So you think 1,000 is like, it's not that much, but considering I would have to more than double what I had achieved in 8 months in 1 month, this was a big goal. So I committed to the goal, and every single day I meditated on it. I wrote affirmations, like straight when I would come out of my meditation, I would write, I'm so happy and grateful to have reached 1,000 followers by July 1st, 2020. I would say that to myself repeatedly, like in the shower. And I just saw it as being done, right? I really like tried to get myself into the feeling of it's already done. Started to happen, and you can actually see this on my page. Like if you go scroll through Instagram, for any of you who have Instagram, at themindpalace.ca, you will see a noticeable shift in my content over the last month. Like the whole aesthetic changed, my messaging changed, and by June 27th, I had accumulated 660 followers. So I had accumulated 200 and something more in like this time period. My growth rate had gone up by 5 times. That's how I calculated it. So my growth rate had increased by 5 times simply by starting to do these meditations, simply by deciding it, and really doing everything I could to embody.
Okay, that's the thing though. You see, it wasn't just the meditative state. You just said your content shifted, the look and feel shifted, what you were bringing through.
Yeah, that was a side effect though.
That's my point. My point is what happened was when you connected to that expression of yourself in your mind's eye.
I'm gonna pull up my phone really quick to show you, because something even crazier happened in the last 3 days.
Okay, I want to see that, but I just want to make this point that it's not just sitting in a meditative state that you're going to manifest all these things. She took action. But what changed was the action. The actions actually changed. The look, the feel, the content that she started channeling on that page changed, which was the kind of look, the feel, and the content that would attract that audience, that would be consistent with a person who had attracted that audience. So,
right. I said this the other day and a lot of people resonated with it. I said, naturally, once I made this decision that I would have 1,000 followers by this date, right? I was being defined by a vision of the future while also practicing being in that state of already having it every single day, right? So very soon I started to feel like it was already done, and it was really only a matter of time before I saw that physically. But to me, the spiritual world is just as valid, if not more, than the physical world. So if it's done in the spiritual realm, if it's done in my mind and in my heart, it's done in reality. This is the dream. And that's the reality. So through this process of embodying the person that I wanted to be, naturally, I started to shift my messaging. Naturally, I started to be guided. I started to receive more intuitive insights. I just felt like I was more in the flow because I was really opening myself up to Source and saying, hey, Source, this is my desire. I'm open to receiving. And when you open yourself to receive, naturally things start to come through. So I'm just going to show you really quickly. This was my page.
Wait. Let me put you on a larger. Hold on a second. I'm going to change the view here on my recording so I can see. Okay, go ahead, Sophia.
So this is my page prior to making the decision. Now on May 25th, hold on, I'm going to hold it really close. On May 25th. I don't know if you guys can see that.
Yeah, we can see it.
On day, this was a post from May 25th, the exact day that I made the decision. Hold on. Oh wait. The exact day that I made the decision that I was going to achieve 1,000 followers.
Is there a specific one you want us to read?
Aesthetic, no, not necessarily. It's just, if you look at the page, there's a noticeable like shift. Like I started posting more videos of myself. This was like before, it was very generic, you know, just a lot of quotes, a lot of whatever. Then here, I changed the coloring so it was more cohesive. I started to quote myself, which I never did before. I started posting more of me, more like visually pleasing things, more cohesive things. And then this is the last 3 days. Oh, complete shift again. Right? So like, look at this. This was like for the entire month until the 27th. And this is now.
Now you have
and I had to gain 340 followers in 3 days. Well, technically 2 days. I ended up achieving my goal by July 2nd, but that's for a very specific reason. But 340 followers in 3 days is what I achieved. And it's because I never gave up on myself. Like I never gave up on myself until it wasn't over till it was over for me. So on that day, June 27th, I could have said, oh, there's no possible way that I'm gonna reach 1,000 followers in 2 days. There's no way that's gonna happen. So, you know, I'll just be happy with where things are now. But I kicked it up a notch again. And that's where you see the shift in my content happen again, because I was like, no, this is happening. I am going to gain 340 followers by July 1st, by the end of the day, July 1st, 2020. So I ran, and you know what, screw my aesthetic. I'm just gonna post what feels right. I took off all the limitations that I had placed on myself about, you know, posting this kind of content on Instagram, making sure that all, you know, it's a white and then it's a color and then it's a white and then it's a color. I said, screw that. I'm just going to post what comes through for me. I'm going to play around with things. I'm going to step into the unknown, right? We talked about that so much in the last call, stepping into the unknown, trying something new, being open to receiving inspiration. If you only think, like, if you make a plan for yourself of how it's going to happen, you're cutting off all the other options of how it's going to happen. Right? So I really just remained fully open and I let whatever had to come through. And
now wait. Let me be. This is an important point, because it was an important point for you, and I think it's an important point for everybody, because you did hit your mark by 1 day late.
Mm-hmm.
So for those of you who might be upset with maybe not achieving your goal on the date that you thought it was your date with destiny, Sophia and I had a conversation about this, and I thought what she took from it was extremely important. So there's a lesson in that. It was a lesson she needed to own this law. Now, what would you share with everybody as to why were you 24 hours delayed in hitting your goal?
Mm-hmm. So I was at my dad's house when all this happened, but there was one day, a few days, I think the July 1st was the Wednesday and this was the Friday. And for whatever reason, I felt different this day. It was like things were surfacing, feelings of, it was self-doubt. I identified it very quickly as self-doubt. And it's like, you know, logically, sometimes these things don't make sense. It's an unconscious program, right? The unconscious program came through, it was my ego, right? Right before you're about to hit that mark, right before you're about to hit that goal, right as the, you know, the days were winding down, right? That's when my ego started to kick into overdrive and really start to fight me, because the ego wants to stay comfortable. It wants to stay where it is. So self-doubt struck, and that day I just was not myself. I had like a lot of, I was emotional, like I was feeling anxious. I kept having these thoughts of like, what if I don't hit it? What if I don't hit it? You know, like, what more can I do? What do I have to do to make this happen? And every time I would catch myself and I would try to just say like, cancel, like bring myself back. but it just kept coming forward. Like this emotion kept coming forward, and I knew that I had to release it. So I sat down with my dad and we had a really good talk, and I cried a little bit. And that's okay. Sometimes you really just have to not resist what's coming up and like let it flow. And then I went and meditated after. And in my meditation, I just saw that the deed was already done. Like I saw a tree. I saw that I had planted a seed, that I had watered it consistently, and that it had grown, it had bloomed, and the fruit was there hanging low enough to grab. And all that was left for me to do was grab it. Like that's what I saw in my meditation. So it was kind of just like like the universe, God, source, reminding me that my work has already been done. Everything that I need to do, I had already done. And the only thing standing in my way was this doubt, was just not trusting myself, not trusting the law. So after that, I felt way better and I was restored to my full faith. And for the remainder of the time, I was completely in my faith. First on midnight when I didn't have the 1,000 yet, I was like, all right, well, it's done. So it's gonna be done at some point. Like for me, I'm like, it's already done. So whenever it decides to show up, that's great. But I wasn't stressing about it anymore. It actually felt like after that date passed, like a lot of pressure was just taken off, because I was like, okay, well, you know, I did everything that I could. And now that the date passed, I mean, I'm just gonna wait. At this point, my page was growing really, really fast because I had been on it for those last 3 days, last 2 days really. On June 29th and 30th was when I really started kicking into high gear, reaching out to all my resources, messaging everyone I know, sending them my videos saying, please share, right? And I had gotten this really great momentum. And by July 1st midnight, I had 814 followers, right? Which I had gone like up 200 followers in about 2 days. And then the next day I finally like hit that 1,000 mark. But this is the thing, I paid a day because of my self-doubt. My dad told me, mark the exact day. It was actually July 3rd at like July 3rd, 12:30 a.m. So like just first few minutes of July 3rd was when I hit it. So it was like an entire day that I had spent in that self-doubt was what I paid for my goal. And it was like the universe just reminding me, like, do not doubt that you are the master. Never doubt that you are the master. Right. And now I just remind myself, like, anytime doubt comes, I'm like, this is a lie. This is a lie. And I almost use the fear in reverse. It's like my cousin is a musician and he's doing really, really well with his music using the law. And he always says, like, for me, the biggest drive is thinking about what is the consequence going to be if I don't have faith. Like he uses the fear in reverse. Like the second I'm not creating consciously what I want, I'm creating what I don't want. So he's like, I can't afford even a second of self-doubt. And he uses that as like, you know, scare yourself in the right way kind of thing. Like
scared successful.
Exactly. Like you do not need to doubt. And in fact, it is that doubt that's blocking you from receiving sooner, faster, on the date that you want it to be. So like that was a huge lesson for me. Like I think because I experienced it like in real time, it's not even, now doubt cannot faze me anymore because I understand exactly what my doubt is creating. It's creating space between me and my goal. Right? And at the end of the day, once you realize that it's all happening through you, that you are truly the creator, you are truly the master, that even in your doubt, you are creating something. Why would you ever doubt yourself again?
Well, there you go. So there's a perfect example, a real-time, real-life example of the law being applied. And when you apply it masterfully and faithfully, you see an effect, and it's much more pronounced. And I don't know if any of you guys, thanks, Sophia, stick around. I don't know if any of you, by the way, I'm not sure if this is Gloria Nava, who Gloria is on this call, but if that's Gloria Nava, I would love for you to say hello, because I see the sound that keeps coming in and out. Are you there, Gloria? Hello, Gloria. Gloria. Hello, hello. Okay, maybe it's not. I'll just get that. There we go, to quiet down a bit. Okay, so what was I going to say? I was going to say the idea of Sophia's experience and this concept of faith and applying this law faithfully is something you all need to own. You all need to take ownership of this through some example in your own life, through some personal experience in your own life, whether it's setting a goal for a check, whether it's setting a goal for a rank. And I think you should all have that. If you're at all aspiring to be a business builder in Nikan, you need to have a goal in both categories, an income goal and a rank goal, because they, as Sophia said, she started to receive information based on her vision of the future. And she would not have received that information or changed anything about herself or anything about what she was doing has she not firmly grasped that vision of herself.
Papa, I just want to say one thing because it really resonated with a lot of people. I posted this on my story yesterday, but I said that if you think about it, the content that was attracting 400 followers would not be the same content that attracts 1,000 followers. Why? Because the person who has 400 followers is not the same person as the one who has 1,000 followers. So the second I jumped to this level of consciousness and I said, I already have 1,000, naturally, my content had to change. My messaging had to be elevated. Right? And these things happen effortlessly. That's the beauty of the law. It's like effortless effort, right? Because you make the decision, you tune yourself to a frequency. That's the work. The real work is changing the internal. That's the only work that is truly necessary, because everything else happens naturally, happens as a consequence of tuning your internal energy to that desired goal. Yeah, that's just what I wanted to add.
I think again, if you don't take ownership of this, if you don't apply this, you will not own it. And owning it is the key to being a conscious creator, and then literally having whatever you want in life, experience whatever you want in life. Start with baby steps, start with things that are, are current realities, current goals that you've set for yourself. Or maybe you've been timid about setting goals because you've not had the benefit of this wisdom. As we talked about, your head can be in it, but if your heart isn't in it, if it's working against you, those doubts, that quiet conversation in the background, then it's having an impact. And Sophia measured it. It was measurable to her. It was tangible. 24 hours of doubt resulted in 24 hours of suspension. But again, how many of us spend 95% of our time in doubt and not 1 hour or 24 hours? So consider why something keeps getting pushed off or why we don't materialize is because we are self-sabotaging the realization of that activity. The more innocent person is the one that doesn't have doubt or fear. They're more likely to achieve the goal. And you wonder, how did they do that? Like Leo just broke a silver on his team this month. And there's people that have been struggling to go silver for a long, long time. And then this guy comes along and goes silver. And he must be wondering, whoever's watching this guy must be wondering, what is he doing that's so different? That's so special? I'll bet you that guy doesn't think it's special at all. He doesn't know any better. So consider that when you're operating faithfully, and you become fearless, and the doubt disappears, and that's the work. As Sophia's saying, it's getting into that alignment. So what does it take? Well, it takes daily practice, and in this case, the practice is to go into that place we are referring to as a meditative state or a contemplative state, where you literally assume the responsibility, the role, the character, the behavior. You connect as much as you can with that individual of yourself in that future reality. Bring that with you back into your current circumstances. And then what will appear as a result of that is a stream of consciousness that you were not awakened to or aware of until then. You will start to have a different conversation on the phone with people. You will start to see people and circumstances totally differently. And that's where the opportunity will come from. It's because you're not having to change worlds. That's not what we're talking about. If you remember the analogy of red car, blue car, you could stand on a street corner and I could say to you, I want you to count all the red cars that drive by in the next 30 minutes. And as you're counting them, and I come back to you after 30 minutes and I say, okay, so how many cars did you count? And you'd say, well, there was 234 red cars that passed by in the last 30 minutes. Perfect, excellent, great, well done. How many of them were blue? You'd be like, what? I don't know. There was blue cars, I'm sure, and other colors too, but I wasn't counting them. I was counting the red cars. You asked me to count that's the whole thing. Everything is happening. Everything is there, but you're not seeing everything. You're seeing what your consciousness is seeing, what your consciousness is focused on. The problem is our consciousness, the subconscious, is focused on something 95% of the time that is counter the intention that you really want to manifest. So you've got to spend the conscious part of your life in a more heightened awareness. And let me explain that, because this is something that Sophia and I were talking about afterwards. I was telling her what was coming through to me loud and clear was, when you meditate in the higher state, when you actually become no one, no thing, and no time, when you're in that state, in that fifth dimensional, when you're accessing the higher consciousness, if you blow softly, it creates a wave that can't stop. The only thing that stops it is a counter intention. So a thought, an idea, even a small one, has no counter to it when you're in the third dimension. When you bring yourself back to here, you're playing in this plane, not in this plane. So these are where you're making the experiences happen, but here's where you're doing the creating in that vibration, in that higher vibration. So what I mean to say is, it doesn't take as much effort up here as it does down here to create. So spend a little bit of time, focused time, high quality time here is worth more than most of the time you're applying down here in the lower state. So give yourself the 10, 15 minutes a day. Just, what have you got to lose? As my nephew says, as Sophia was saying, my nephew Rafael, he says, you know, he can't afford to have doubt. He can't afford to let that be at all operating with what he set for himself. He's got like 13,000 followers on Instagram. He's about to release a song. I keep telling him it's going to blow up. This song is going to have 1 million views in no time. So have that experience, own it. You all deserve that, because once you do, once you own this, this becomes a technology. It's not a religion. It becomes a technology, which means you can apply it at will for anything. And there is no limit to this thing. And I hope you've had a chance to watch the Greg Braden video that I suggested last week, Greg Braden, Curing Cancer. And you watch that woman, her 3-inch diameter bladder tumor disappear in 2 minutes and 45 seconds. And then you'll understand the power of this technology. It is real. It has a physical effect. But what is the key? The key is to practice it and have absolute faith in it. That's it. And if you actually correlate, which I have, the many books that I have read, to religious passages of some of the masters of the past in the various forms and the various religions that there are out there and teachings that there are out there, you will find that this correlates to every one of them. Whether you're talking about Mayans, or whether you're talking about Buddhists, or you're talking about Christians, or you'll find that the words are the same. The words are a little different, but the meaning is the same. And so it really comes down to application. Okay, so let's take some questions. Any questions for myself or Sophia?
Again, hi, Mike.
Yeah, Hi, Roberto.
Sophia, if I understand right, the thing what you do, or what we need to do, is to think of what we want, really, really think, meditate, go inside ourselves, think about what we want. And the first things that we attract, rather than in your example that your followers, actions that you pursued, right? So what it comes is ideas to put into place. And that's the first things you attract. That's the way I understood it. And then you apply those new things, those actions, and the consequence of those new actions are the followers you want to accomplish. Is that correct, the way I approach it?
There's just one thing that I want to correct you on, and it's the first part. It's thinking of what you want. Thinking of what you want is great. You know, you need to have a clear vision, and your thoughts, your creative mind is your way to, you know, imagine that new vision. It's like your center of creation, like we're making the blueprint. But what really brings it into form is not thinking, it's feeling. You have to feel it. You have to be fully emotionally engaged with that vision. You have to experience it as if it's already happened, as if you're like reliving a memory, right? And when you recall a memory, instantly you feel the feeling associated with that memory. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to involve our whole body in this experience, all of our senses in this experience. Like you have to be convinced that this is already done. It's already happened, right? And how you convince yourself, it's like you're remembering your future, essentially.
Let me give you a scientific
dog inside because she's barking.
Let me give you a scientific point of view on this to help you maybe lock in on this. In the quantum field, it's like a radio station, okay? If we tune the dial of a radio, we can hear different frequencies whatever's being broadcast and on those different frequencies, from country music to rock music to the news, etc. By tuning the dial, we can hear there's a different frequency and whatever's being broadcast on that frequency. Think of the quantum field as various channels of reality. Now, this has been scientifically demonstrated, guys. So what I'm telling you here, you can absolutely take to the bank in terms of there is a scientific principle at work here. This is not make-believe, that there are actually an infinite number of realities happening simultaneously. And the one that you are experiencing in the third dimension, which appears to be physical, and as you heard earlier, there's nothing physical about it. It's energy, and perturbations in the energy give us the appearance of physicality based on our senses. Our senses are only able to sense the physical we experience, even though at a microscopic level or a smaller level, it's nothing but energy and waves. So science is telling us that there are multiple possibilities happening all at once, but what we personally experience, we go from the field of possibility to probability. We experience a probable experience based on the emotions and the energy that we are gravitating toward, and then eventually it collapses into one thing, and that thing then becomes the experience we manifest. So the wave goes from possibility to probability to fact through what we observe consciously, whether it's conscious or awakened state or subconscious. So we collapse the field of probability into one expression, one effect, one experience, even though there are multiple experiences to select from. So what she's saying is change the dial. Do that, and how you do that is the only way you can do that in the third dimension is to step out of the third dimension. You literally got to go into your space, into the fifth dimension, where you become non-localized consciousness. You're no longer feeling your body per se. You're not sensing time. You're not worried about getting the phone or doing a text or writing an email. You're completely devoid of the consciousness of that old reality that where your consciousness was locked in. Your consciousness is now expanded to a non-localized consciousness. When people have near-death experiences, they often talk about floating above their body and seeing everybody that's at work on their body in the hospital. They hear the voices of what's going on, and then they go to a higher place and further away, and then they experience on the other side. But the experience is very common. They become a non-local consciousness, meaning their consciousness steps out of their body and they can actually look at their body. Well, what's looking at their body? What's seeing their body? It's not their body, it's their consciousness, which can see. So I'm talking about going into that consciousness where your body is separate and apart from you. And in that space, in that higher realm, where you're now able to tune into a different channel and experience yourself vividly as though it really is another version of you. And what's interesting is when you do get to that channel, when it becomes really vivid to you, it will feel as though it's really happening. Like you will, if somebody was watching you, observing you in that meditative state, when you went into that happy place, they will see the happiness on your face. They will see your body posture. They could measure your heart rate. They've done this. And you will express physically, even though your eyes are closed, you'll be expressing physically as if you were actually in that state. So that's what Sophia's talking about. You've got to connect with that other channel that exists in the higher realms. And when you connect with it in the higher realms, now it's no longer separate from you. It's no longer an idea that's separate from you. You've actually connected to it. And the fact that you're feeling it is the evidence that you've connected to it. You are now in conscious and harmony, in awareness with that reality, with that vibration, because you feel it. Feeling is conscious awareness of vibration. So if you're feeling it, you are now conscious of it. And whatever it is you are conscious of is what you manifest.
Yeah. So in other words, feeling is frequency. So when you feel like it's already done, you're on the frequency of it already done. And naturally, like attracts like, and we start to attract ideas, people, circumstances, resources that are also on the frequency that we have tuned into, like a radio, like he was talking about. But it's really interesting because the subconscious mind, as we know, can't tell the difference between real and imaginary. So when you have this experience mentally, emotionally, spiritually, your body believes that it is actually happening, right? And so what happens on a physical level is your very DNA changes. Your cells start to vibrate in a different frequency, right? Your DNA shifts. And so now you're moving through the 3D world as literally, biologically, we could say that you are a different person, right?
Yeah, and that's my point. When you make that connection, you start acting. I want to stress just the action part. It's not something that you just think and feel, right, and then you wait to happen. It drives you to do some things that you have never thought before.
Correct.
And you take some actions, and you took some actions between whatever date, May and July. And because of those actions that were new, because of that connection, is that you accomplish your goal. So I just wanted to stress that point. That
Roberto, that's part of it. That's part of it. There's no question about the actions are different. But I have to tell you something. There is action in thought. Thought is energy. Thought actually moves and connects to other waveforms that are in vibration with that. So I can actually transmit a message from here to London, England, and help somebody heal through my intention over here to a person who doesn't even know I exist. Okay? This is called remote healing. It's been demonstrated. It's proven. Read the book, The Intention Experiment, if you want the science behind it. So imagine that we can intend something for someone who doesn't even know we exist, and they live on the other side of the world, and they can have a measurable physiological effect. So it's not just that you're doing different things. You will be doing different things. The actions will start to reflect the person you've become. But there's also something else. You're broadcasting a different frequency. And that broadcast is being heard to different people in different situations, and they will become for instance, somebody may be flipping through Facebook tonight, Roberto, and you may have put a Facebook ad up. And that person ordinarily would never have seen that Facebook ad. But because of what you're broadcasting, and that's the frequency they're on, all of a sudden they see your ad and it gets their attention. Now, they're not conscious of that, but that's what happens. So if we were the mind of God, if we could actually peer into the window of the creative power of all things, then that's what we would see. We would see how those dots are connected. But it's beyond the scope of our ability. But you can trust that it happens because there's evidence of it time and time again. And this is the thing that people lack when they try just to exert force, will, to achieve a goal. You've got to get all of you into this thing, because the other part of you is much more accomplished, much more capable than your physical part. You're going to say,
for me, I'm thinking about it now, and I'm like, if you really look at the very actions, I mean, I was still posting before. I was posting for 8 months, right? And the real action that changed things was I started meditating every day. That was the one action that I can say that I physically started doing something different, because I was still posting before and then I was still posting after, but the quality of the post changed. The messaging, the information that I was presenting changed. My captions changed.
Because you changed.
Because
you changed.
Exactly.
You are in a different
frequency. That's what it comes down to. Like, I, as a person, changed. My thought patterns, my feelings on a day-to-day basis change. So obviously, naturally, my actions start to change. Sometimes we're thinking there like, oh, let me do this. I got to do this. I got to do this thing. And that's by force, right? It's effortless effort. It really just starts to flow naturally when you change first your thoughts and your feelings.
Yeah, I understand that. And I agree completely what you say. It's because you change, because you're in a different frequency, that you have different actions, but at the same time, you're in a different level. You don't attract what you want. You attract who you are. And I understand that. And I know that through meditation, like the meditation you took us through the other day, and I repeated several days. And it's amazing to meditate, because you realize that you have a body, but you are not your body. And with your meditation, we diluted our body into the water. And then you have thoughts, but you are not the thoughts. And you have feelings, but you are not the feelings. So then what is left? Who are you? You are that spirit, that thing, that frequency. And that's, I think, through meditation, you get rid of all these appearances that you say. You're not your body, you're not your thoughts, you're not your feelings. So who are you? You are that ether that connects with everything. So I agree, and I think it's beautiful.
Absolutely, just nailed it.
And Roberto, in that space, when you get there, so let's say your meditation takes you 5 or 10 minutes. It's going to take practice to get it down to 5 or 10 minutes. But let's say the first part of your meditation is just to get you to the 0 point. The 0 point, which they refer to as the 0 point field. The 0 point is where you are no thing, no one, no time, no space. You're just consciousness. The I am that I am. At that moment in time, at that point in reference, I should say, you can then begin to draw your attention to something. And it's gonna be effortless, and it's not gonna have the encumbered weight of your personality that you've left behind. It's not gonna be encumbered by the weight of the old version of you. So you'll be able to put that garb on much more simple, much more effortlessly, and feel the feeling of it, because you're not attached to that other person that you've been portraying for so long. And so it's much easier to connect with the feeling, which is the key. It's much easier to connect with the feeling when you're unencumbered. So how do you get unencumbered? You've got to get to that higher place where you've zeroed out your personality. You've got to zero out that personality. Let's call it the 0 point. Get to the 0 point and then start your creative intention. And it's at that point where there's less resistance. You're not encumbered by the past, and all of a sudden you can experience the realness of it much more effectively, therefore tune to the frequency much more accurately, and therefore you're now actually strumming the string of that frequency, which means everything in the universe that's in harmony with that frequency is going to resonate, and it will come to source. All energy returns to source. So if you strum the string, meaning you connect to the frequency and experience the emotion of it, you've strung the string. And all energy must return to source. So when you come back into your 3D personality, as you know, that person's not going to be the same, because you've now had an experience in the consciousness and the feeling of that. That's now a memory that you own. You could turn to somebody and describe what you experienced. That's the proof that you have a memory.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Sophie.
Any other questions? I see a lot of faces behind their thing. I don't see live faces. I see pictures of people. Guys, don't hide. This is not a hiding session. Yes, thank you. Live, interactive. Anyone? Any questions?
For a long time, I've wondered, I'll think about somebody I haven't thought about in a long time. The next day the phone rings and it's them. And I've often wondered, did they call me because I thought of them, or did I think of them because they were thinking about me? It could be both. But yeah, sometimes I use it.
Well, we do unconsciously most of the time, Wes. Most of the time, I mean, let me just say this. We're never not creating. As long as you're a conscious being, you're creating. It's impossible to not be creating, because your energy in motion, and energy in motion has a counterforce. It has a counter reaction. It's Newton's third law. So you're creating. The question is, are you creating what you want to create? And that's the only question. And so if you want to create something different in terms of a life experience, or even a day in the life, then you can create that experience first in the consciousness of your mind through imagination. That's the faculty that you have that was born in the likeness of the Creator. It's the thing that makes us the creator. What we were, in the Bible, it says we were born in the likeness and image of the Creator. Image is the first part of the word imagination. So what is that? What is it that I, you, everyone shares in common that is in common with the Creator? The Creator said, "Let there be light," there was light. So imagining a state is the creative power behind the manifestation of the state. You have the ability to imagine. You can imagine such crazy stuff that no one's ever seen on this planet, but you can imagine it. If I say, don't imagine a pink zebra, I'll bet you right now you just flash pink zebra on your mind. Well, has anybody ever seen a pink zebra? No, it doesn't exist on this planet yet, but you just imagined it. That's what you can do. You can imagine something that's never been seen before. So that's what's different about us than animals. They don't imagine something other than what they've experienced. They're living on instinct, which is the past. We have the ability to create, which goes beyond instinct, the basic mind.
Somewhere there's a zebra turning pink.
There's already a zebra that's pink. We just haven't manifested it yet.
Yes,
there was a comment made tonight about reliving a memory. Sorry about that. And I'm in the week of reliving a lot of memories. So I just have to take those memories and change them to thinking of the future. When
Well, the
I'm
memories
reliving
are
a
the
memory,
memories.
pardon me?
You're talking about memories of the past. She's talking about memories of the future.
I know, but if I know how to relive memories of the past, then I should be able to transition that into having memories of the future. That statement really resonated with me tonight for some reason.
And how do we do that? She gave us the exercise last week. Pretty much how you do it is you get You get into that
Which I
space.
have been doing, and I haven't found it easy, but
Heart,
I've been
mind,
persistent.
alignment, heart, mind, coherence. Start there and then go into that. You know, if you're looking for something, Sophia, other than the meditation, by the way, the meditation Sophia did last week, you can just play back. You can just use that meditation, find that spot on the recording and use that meditation as a guided meditation to go into your meditation. There's nothing wrong with having a guided meditation. In fact, it's quite useful. I know Joe Dispenza has probably some that you could find. Maybe even just having the right music playing in the background. There's some really interesting music out there. But you've got to make this action, this time, you've got to carve this time out of your day in order to do it. It's not going to be done, you know, on its own. You've got to make this as important an exercise in your day as you would, you know, making breakfast or brushing your teeth or, you know, whatever. So I think it's really important that as you make this part of your day, as that becomes a staple in your day, then all the things that we've been talking about, you'll be commenting on. You'll have your own comments too, because you'll say, oh yeah, and I did this and this. You'll own it. And when you own it, then you'll be creative with it. You'll be creating your own reality, and you'll have your own experiences that you can then imagine. Let's just take, for instance, we've got 24 people on this call. Let's say we all individually went and did something this week, like Sophia did. And next week we came back and said, this is what I did. I did this. I manifested this. I thought this first. I experienced it. And then I went and these are all the things that started to transpire. And here's the reality. Here's the result of that. Imagine 24 of us came back to this call, confirming each other by having our own personal experience. Where would this lead to next? How many members of your family would you want to share this with? Where would this lead to next? And so you can see this is an opportunity for us to really grow something in the most effective way possible as a human being. It's not by force, it's by attraction. Much, much, much more powerful. Yeah, Sophia.
Well, we did set a goal last week.
We did.
We picked a number.
We did.
I'm curious. I was actually, when I hit my goal of 1,000, you want to know the first thing I thought? I thought if I can gain 340 followers in 3 days, and all those people on that call can hit their number by whatever date it is. I think July 18th, you guys said?
That's it. July 18th. You have an invitation. You have invites.
Like, I want to hear like how all of them are doing. And if, you know, in the last week, if you've been consistent with your practice, have you gained any insights? Have you felt any different? Have you noticed any changes happening around you? I think it's good to bring your attention to those things.
Okay, well, this is a wrap for the call because this is our time. But I do thank you again, Sophia, for joining us and bringing your brand of you to the table, because we definitely benefit from that. Thanks for all of you contributors. And let's do that. Let's take that upon ourselves to go through this next week as an exercise in experiencing this. You know, can we commit to that? Can we commit to each other that? Because I would really like to facilitate a call where I don't have to really say anything and I just listen, because you guys are all can't wait to tell your story. That'd be a really cool call to be on.
Michael, before you go, tell me the name of that Greg Braden video that you want us to watch.
Greg Braden, if you
he's got so much stuff on. I just Googled him. He's got so much.
Yeah, if you go to YouTube and Google Greg Braden Curing Cancer.
Oh, okay.
There's a few versions of it, but the one that I'm thinking of is about 14 minutes long. He's in a auditorium in Milan, Italy, okay. And he takes you through an experience along with that audience that will blow your mind.
All right, thanks.
Okay.
Good program.
So what is it we're committing to?
Manifesting, Carol. Manifest something. Apply this this week faithfully. Vision, create, and make it happen.
If nothing
Okay.
else, just commit to meditating every day.
That's it.
That's it.
If you did nothing else, because by the end of this week, believe me, you'll be filled with stories.
Okay.
May I just quickly
Sounds good.
share
Yes, Mary.
about meditation? I started meditating after Sophia went through. And my first day, I set it for 10 minutes. I set my phone on, and my paradigms would not allow me to do it. I couldn't decide whether I should go to the Adriatic to float on top of the Adriatic, or the Mediterranean, or the Pacific Ocean because it's cold. And I was trying to decide which, and then all of a sudden my alarm went off. And I realized I didn't meditate, so I reset it again. And it was actually just the regular meditation is when first I decided, and I just woke up and I said, I'm a royal diamond. Everything I do is going to be in that light. I'm going to do it. My house is going to be a royal diamond house. It's going to be organized. My body, everything is going to be royal diamond. I don't know if that helps, but
Okay.
Mike,
Yes.
hi, Maureen here. There's some good guided meditations that I've come across from the Honest Guys. They're a British group, and honestly, I describe the one narrator's voice as like peanut butter. It's just so smooth. But they do everything from the epic 4-minute morning one to very soothing go to sleep to envisioning futures, envisioning your life purposes, different lengths, different purposes, and it's quite a unique series of meditations. And I've been using him quite a lot. I find it very soothing. Just this last couple of days, I've gone to a morning rather than an evening meditation.
So that was the Honest Guys?
The Honest Guys. Just Google The Honest Guys. You'll get fantastic selection.
All right. Great.
Nice beach water.
Perfect. Well, again, I'm in favor of tools because whatever it's going to take for you to make this a habit is going to be a good thing. And we have, my Nikken career has been a rocket rise. And then I've spent majority of my time ever since trying to figure out how to make it happen for others. And so it's been distilling information and trying to internalize it and then incorporate it into a principle and a practice so that it could be accepted by the varying belief systems out there who are, wrapped into spiritual ideas, but there need to be a marriage of science and spirituality, especially when there's religion in the mix. So this is what we're at. This is where we're at. These last couple of weeks have really, it's given you, without giving you all of the science, the distilled, here is the application. And it's actually pretty simple. It's very elegant and very simple. And it does require effort, but it's much, much less effort than what it takes to get it done any other way, whatever it is that you want to get done. So it seems to me that this is a good starting point for all of us in really being able to have quantum leaps in our experience of life and success. Nikken can be not just something that we do on the side. It could be something that really multiplies our ability to influence the world, because not only do we have Nikken as a vehicle, but we have the science of creation. I mean, think about it. Having an army of people that you've equipped with this intelligence, wow. That's what I get excited about. So I want to thank everyone for joining us and contributing. Hope to see you again next week. Namaste.
Namaste.
Namaste.